Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Samuel I Can Win and Kimwin. We're going to have an absolutely fantastic show tonight. I hope you guys are doing well. It's a real pleasure to jump on the YouTube live tonight. So guys, I hope you are ready because tonight we're going to be talking. Yes, not only are we going to be answering questions as we usually do, but we're also going to be adding value in a number of different ways. I've got an article that I'm really looking forward to sharing with you guys later on at some point during tonight's show. Now, guys, first and foremost, let me share with you guys as part of the welcome why we actually do the Strategy in the Storm Impact Show. And it's funny because I don't know about you, but if you're based in London, you probably heard about 4 or 5 minutes ago, the minute it hit 6 o'clock, it's like there started being thunder and rain. And I was laughing, thinking, wow, Strategy in the Storm is getting real. Okay, guys. And for some people, one of the things I was thinking about for today's show is the fact that for some people, their thoughts right now is that the storm is over. Okay, and that's just because they got used to things. You know, people generally say in the personal development world that it takes 21 days in order to build up a habit. It takes 21 days in order to build up a habit. Now, if that's the truth, what that generally means is the moment we went past 3 weeks of lockdown, of quarantine, etc., people would have been used to that. That's now become a habit for them. And the funniest thing is we've gone way past that right now. We're way past week 6. So the reason I want to share that with you is because for some people, for many people right now who might be watching this video, they might think that, you know what, the storm's gone. The storm's gone. There's nothing to think about in that regard. But I just want to encourage you and assure you that although what you may see may seem as though the storm has gone, one of the articles I'm going to read later on today is going to give the illusion to what I'm talking about. But guys, things are not always what they seem. So on this show, what we want to do is add a lot of value to you. So first and foremost, how did we end up doing this show? Well, this show basically started out of the fact that as a property investor and as a property coach, as a property strategist, I had a number of people, effectively coaches, reaching out to me throughout the climate of the whole COVID-19, and a whole bunch of other things, and saying to me, look, Samuel, I don't know what to do. Samuel, I don't know how I'm going to, keep getting cash flow in my properties when I've got tenants saying that they want to leave. I don't know how I'm going to build my portfolio in the midst of things that were going on at the peak or the height, at the initial stages of the whole COVID climate and the lockdown, etc. Now, obviously, the great thing is so many other things have happened since then. So many other things have taken place. So as a direct byproduct, certain people may right now seem and believe that the storm is over. And the question is, are you one of those people? Like, do you believe right now the storm is over? Let us know in the chat. Okay, the reason why we do this on this platform is so you guys can engage. So let us know in the chat, do you think the economic storm, the property storm, do you think the storm is over? Okay, because I'm very interested in your views, guys. You guys are the viewers. You guys are the people that we do the show for. This show wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the people that jump on and watch every week. So the purpose of the show is to do exactly what I wanted to do for all of those coaching clients that were asking me questions. And very simply, what that is answer their questions, okay? But not at the same time exasperate all of my time in terms of my ability to invest, my ability to coach or do the other things that I do. And even more importantly, my ability to spend time with my family. But I still wanted to answer those people's questions. So what we decided to do was create the Strategy in the Storm, the Impact Show, so people could basically jump on. In a moment, we're going to open the phone lines, and that's going to give you the opportunity to call in with any specific questions you have and basically ask those questions so that you can get answers. Now, guys, this is what this is all about. It's not about anything other than that. It's all about providing you with answers, strategic answers in this current climate so that you can continue to move forward in your property journey, because that's my passion. That's what I've always been passionate about. When I worked full-time, got out of full-time work, got into full-time property, it's always been the same for me. It's always been, how can I add value to the community that I'm working with? So without further ado, first thing we're going to do, just to get you guys ready for us to move through, is we're going to open up the phone lines. So the phone lines are now open. Now, whilst opening up the phone lines, what I want to do very quickly is I'm going to read to you guys our typical weekly disclaimer. Yes, it's in the description, but I'm going to read it to you anyway. It says, all information provided and results given are exemplary. Each person's results may vary or differ. Results are based on consistent implementation of strategies, and we advise that you always seek legal and financial advice from a qualified professional. Now, if you have any trouble finding a qualified professional in terms of accounting, in terms of brokers, in terms of any other thing as it pertains to property solicitors, etc., reach out to me, reach out to my team, and we'll be happy to help you move forward with that. So that's the rhetoric, that's the framework, that's the stuff going on. Okay. So what I want to do right now is I'll leave the phone lines open right now. I want to jump into this first article that I wanted to share with you guys. Okay. So this first article that I wanted to share with you guys, it is something that was recently shared. Okay. And hopefully I'm going to be able to see it as well. But this is an article that was recently shared by our good friend over at the Money Saving Expert website. Okay. And over at the Money Saving Expert website, they shared this interesting article, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. And I thought, you know what, we've got to get a little bit of love onto this, okay? Because I think people are missing certain things. They're missing certain things, okay? And this particular website's been having a lot of information, a flurry of information, which is very useful and pertinent for property investors and other people at this current climate. If you're a business owner, the Money Saving Expert website, Martin Lewis is doing a great job. Okay. He's doing a great job of informing people in this climate. And it's funny because I remember watching him on one of his videos, basically explaining that his plan was to have a half term, and he ended up having a whole year's worth of financial information to have to report on his website. So well done, Martin, and a big shout out to you for getting the work done. Now, what I want to do, I think we've got our first caller. So caller number 1, if you could just bear with us, please, as we go through this article. So what I want to do is I want to share with you guys effectively what this article was saying, so you guys can start to get a feel of some of the things that potentially could still be coming, or some of the things that could potentially still be, I guess, around the corner, if I use that terminology. Now, the funniest thing about this particular article that I'm going to share with you guys is something very, very simple. And it's just the simple fact that there was a point on this website. It was point number 7 that they basically shared. And on this point, if I can just get to it, which I should be able to. Okay. If I'm unable to share it with you guys, I do apologize, but I'm still going to basically go through and share what it is. I can share the link with you guys. I can throw that in the chat. If you want the link, just write in the chat, link, the word link, LINK, and I'll share that with you guys right now through the YouTube link. So this is Martin Lewis, and he's basically sharing on the Money Saving Expert website something very pertinent. And it's, like I said, it's point number 7. And it really it didn't surprise me. Okay. It really didn't surprise me. Okay. But really the reality was, as I saw it, I realized that, look, people still don't know what's going on. People are still going to be extremely challenged by the things that are taking place. So what I want to do is I'm going to read it to you. And then from reading it to you, I'm going to just give you, I guess, my 2 pence on it. And then also, there's different people in the marketplace looking at different things. But guys, it's important to have a good understanding of what's taking place in the property market. So let's jump into this article. Point number 7. Okay. And you can see on the screen, what this actually is. Okay. This is actually tips for people in property at the current time. Okay, so it's not just property people, it's for any person to take advantage of. It says this, the article's heading is 18 new need to knows. Okay, so this is the weekly coronavirus update, and it's the 18 new need to know. So it includes furlough till October and you can work, self-employment grant number 2, holidays in Spain, US, and more, 2 years 0% overdraft, mortgage holidays extended, must you take leave on furlough, new people's commission, etc., etc., etc. So Martin Lewis has basically put together a whole bunch of 18 new need to knows. Now, the one I want to focus on specifically, I alluded to it in the subheading, but it's number 7. All right, and I'm going to read this to you to give you guys an insight into what's taking place in the property market. So this is number 7. It says mortgage payment holiday extension confirmed. Okay, mortgage payment holiday extension confirmed. It then goes on to say starts on Thursday. Okay, but only do it if you need one. Okay, and this is Martin Lewis's advice. Obviously, this is him sharing. So his advice is only do it if you need one. Many people don't necessarily think like this. They think, oh, it's free money, it's an opportunity to grab. Let me grab it. Okay. And I want to share this with you guys because I find so many people who are what I would call ill-informed as it pertains to not only property, but finances, business in general. And this is why it's really important to put yourself in the right ecosystem, put yourself around people who can give you insight and advice when you need it. Okay, so let me go through this. It says mortgage payment holiday extension confirmed, starts Thursday, but only, and the capital only, do it if you need one. It says as it can hit your credit score. Okay, now this is something we spoke about months ago. And again, guys, I've said it already. If you want me to send you the link to the article, just let me know. I'll send the link in the chat. Okay, but like I said, this is something that we have spoken about months ago. We shared this when the first mortgage payment holiday was released. We shared that, you know what, we are actually going to encourage people to maybe hold off a little bit on this, because if you just jump into this, you never know, this could affect your credit score. Now, we've had mortgage brokers in our power team, or mortgage brokers that we know, mortgage brokers we're connected with, who have reached out to us and basically said to us, you know what, this actually does now affect your credit score, and not affect your credit score in necessarily some hideous way, but this is now basically being placed, you know, as a record on people's credit score. People are now asking, when you go to buy another property, have you taken a mortgage holiday? You know, I was speaking to a broker 2 days ago. This broker basically said to me, any person who's taken any mortgage holiday, long story short, they are not getting lending right now. So I want you to think about that, okay? That's not every broker I've spoken to, but that was one broker very recently. So I want you guys to think about this. I want you to bear that in mind, that you might be in a position jumping on mortgage holidays. Hopefully, you know, nobody that's too close to me, because they would have heard the advice I've given them, which is actually going to affect your credit score. So just bear that in mind. So let's jump into the real article. It says the regulator, the FCA, has just confirmed that from Thursday, the mortgage payment holiday extension proposed 12 days ago for those suffering financial difficulties will be in play. Then he says, in brief, if you've not yet applied, you've till the 31st of October to do so. Okay, it goes on to say, if you're already on a payment holiday, you can ask to extend it for a further 3 months. So now this is not just covering you from effectively the second quarter or into the second quarter of the year. This is now also potentially going to cover you for up until the third quarter of the year, or throughout the third quarter of the year. It says the no repossessions rule has been extended until the 31st of October too. Now, obviously that makes sense, because you can't repossess properties if you've already given people a waiver or an opportunity to waiver their mortgage payments. Let's keep going. It says, this is Martin speaking. Martin says his rule on payment holidays is simple, and all of this is in caps, guys. If you need one, do it, but only do it if needed. Okay, now look, I echo those sentiments 100%. I echo those sentiments, because this isn't about a money grab. This isn't about, oh, you know what, I can get away with not paying my mortgage, so therefore I'm not going to pay my mortgage. No, guys, this is about being a good steward of your resources. This is about being someone who's wise in a particular scenario. But let's keep going. It says, and if you don't need the whole holiday, you can do a partial holiday. Example, ask to reduce what you pay by half. There's more info in a particular step-by-step guide, including Martin's mortgage holiday 8-minute video briefing. Okay, so he's done an 8-minute video briefing on mortgage holidays. Again, guys, if you want the value, if you want the link to this page, let me know and I'll throw that in the chat. It says the reason it's not a grab is twofold. First, because the holiday is just a deferment. Okay, so guys, please remember this, because when you have tenants or you have other people in the community saying, yeah, you know, just take a mortgage holiday on your whole portfolio, then increase your rents on the tenants, you know, there's some crazy stuff going on out there. Anyway, because the holiday is just a deferment, you still have to pay it back later, plus the interest that's also racked up. Okay, very interesting statement. It goes on to say, also, while it won't go on your credit file, as Martin revealed here 2 weeks ago, mortgage payment holidays can affect your credit score, as lenders use other methods to detect it. Okay, and one of the easiest methods is the one I said that I spoke with a broker about 2 days ago. They just ask you the question. As you say you want to buy a new property, as you start filling out a new mortgage application, they just ask you the simple question: have you had a mortgage holiday in X amount of time? And they'll ask you the amount of time. Okay, thank you to the caller who's being extremely patient. We're going to jump onto the call in a moment and we might come back to this article. So it then says, also why it's not good. Okay, there's other ways that lenders can use to detect it. After he'd raised this with the FCA, it checked, and the FCA checked it out, confirmed, and put it into its announcement. So this is the funniest thing. The FCA, the regulatory body, never necessarily announced this the first time the mortgage holidays were actually made available. But Martin is saying that he had a conversation with them, and basically as a result of that, they've now actually included this information in their briefing. It says, yeah, if you're going to struggle to repay and you need cash flow, do it. Better that than killing your finances. And guys, I just wanted to share that with you because I wanted you to understand that there are people, okay, there are people who are advocating this stuff, who are advocating, you know what, we need the mortgage holidays, we need the mortgage holidays. Okay, somebody said I should share it. Okay, Yogesh said I should send the link, so I've just thrown the link in the chat so you guys can have the link. Go check that website after the show and see it for yourself. Okay, so there's people out there who are advocating taking the mortgage holidays, okay, but sometimes a bit recklessly. And what I mean by a bit recklessly, they're not necessarily informing you of what's going on, okay? They're not informing you of what's going on. And the key, you need to stay informed, guys. Okay, this is why we do what we do. We do because we want to stay informed, not just because, oh, we can get away with it. Okay, and this is something I want to encourage you guys about. Don't be the kind of person who's just doing what you do because you can. Be the kind of person who's doing what you do because you know it fits in line with your plans. You know it fits in lines with your objective. You know it fits in lines with what not only planning to do, but what you desire and aim to do. Okay, guys, so that's my encouragement to you guys. I want you guys to be focused on the right things right now in this property journey, not just focused on everything. And that's extremely important. Okay, it's extremely important, especially as the rubber hits the road. Because like I said, you know, some people think the storm is over. Okay, I won't say much more about that. Okay, anyone who's been on the live show every single week will know what my real thoughts about that. So all I'm going to say about that is okay. All right, okay. Let's see how it really goes. Now, we've got, as I mentioned, we've got a caller who's on. I'm going to jump onto the phones, take the caller's call, and then straight after taking the caller's call, we will then, we might come back to talking about this article because I think this article, and then straight after that, we'll basically see if there's any other callers, take a few more callers, give you guys an opportunity to get your questions answered additionally as well. Now, if you're getting value from the show already, feel free to hit the like button. Side by side with hitting the like button, why not subscribe, become a part of our community? And then also side by side with that, why don't you also share the video so other people in the community can see the value that we're sharing through means of the Impact Show. And again, guys, remember, this show is about you. This show is for you. It's for the community. It's not for me. It's to help people move forward in their property journey. So without further ado, let me jump onto the phone and see how we can help our first caller. Okay. Hello, good evening. Caller 697. Am I doing something wrong? I don't think so. Let me check one more time. Okay, caller 697. Bear with us one moment. Just making sure I can hear you. Good evening, caller 697. Whoops. It sounds like it's muted for some reason. Good evening, caller 697. You are on the air. I'm not sure why we can't hear the caller. Okay, guys, give me one moment to try and see why the caller's not being heard. Hopefully, we'll be able to sort this out very quickly before we jump into a few other things. Okay, so caller 697 has said they're calling, but seems I can't hear them. Please stay on and be patient. We should be able to sort this out in a moment. Let me just check the settings on here. Okay. Caller 697? No. Still not working, I don't think. Okay, caller 697. I'm not sure how we can get this call through. I do apologize. It's probably me messing something up on the tech. Feel free to send through the chat message and hopefully we can hear you. Let's see if we can get this working. Should be fine. We've got everything on. Let me ask caller 697. Can you hear me through the telephone? Excellent. Thank you for sending it through in the chat. Okay, excellent. You can hear me, but I can't hear you. Okay, not sure why that is. The volume's up at the top on the headphones. Usually the calls come through perfectly. So not sure why that is. If you try speak again, maybe hello? Caller 697. I think I can hear you now. Hello? Hello? Caller 697. I can hear the ambient noise, but I can't hear you speaking. Hello? Hello? I can hear you now perfectly. Yeah, I can. Apologies for the tech issues. Is that Timmy?
Yeah, Timmy.
Excellent. Excellent. How are you doing, Timmy?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So,
Just about hearing you're a bit low, but I think I can just about.
that's perfect. This is what I need you to do for me, Timmy. Don't listen to me on the YouTube because the YouTube has a slight delay. Listen to me in the telephone and you should be able to hear me perfectly.
Yeah. I've muted the YouTube.
All right, cool. Perfect. No problem. All right, cool. So let's jump into your question. I think you did throw it into the chat. I'm also turning up the volume for you on the call, so hopefully it'll be helpful for you to hear me. Is it better now?
A little bit, yeah.
All right, cool. Do apologize. All right, so just quickly, Timmy, are you happy for the viewers of the Impact Show to basically hear whatever you're going to ask me and also for them to hear whatever I'm going to share with you as kind of insights or strategy to go forward?
Yes, definitely. No.
All right, cool. So without further ado, take it away. Let us know how we can help you.
Thank you so much. So there's two questions. So I am currently speaking to a landlord that has a 13-bed HMO. It was previously used, but now it's empty.
Yep.
So the first question I wanted to ask is, what is for HMOs that have more than 12 bedrooms, do they suit certain types of tenants? And is there anything that I should be aware of specifically for HMOs that are more than 12 bedrooms? That's the first question.
Great question.
And then the second, yeah, thank you. And then the second question is, the landlord said that the previous people used a HMO license and didn't require planning permission.
Okay.
So I was a bit confused because normally planning permission is needed for properties more than six bedrooms, especially 13.
Yeah.
So I am due to call the council on Monday, but councils can be very slow with communication, and this landlord wants to move quite fast.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to find out is it common sometimes for properties not to need planning permission if they're like over 10 bedrooms
Okay. So I'm gonna
for
start.
HMO.
All right, so first and foremost, let's do this. For those of you who are watching the show, just confirm for me, just put the letter Y in the chat if you can hear Timmy absolutely perfectly, because I don't want to start answering the question without, you guys actually following along. And if you can or can't, I'm going to summarize the question and then I'm going to come back anyway. So Timmy's initial question, and I'm going to ask Timmy to go into his second question a bit more in a little while. Timmy's initial question was, is it commonplace for there to be an 11-bed, 12-bed plus HMO room property which doesn't have planning permission or doesn't need planning permission? That was Timmy's original question. And then his second question was around the fact that it's going to take some time for the council to give him some information on Monday or Tuesday when he calls them, and this landlord wants to move fairly quickly. What was the actual, like, the heart of the question at the end, Timmy, for the second one?
I think the second question is what you just mentioned.
Okay.
The first question was for a 10 plus 12 plus bedroom
That's it.
HMO.
Specific tenant types.
What things should we be aware of in regards to tenants? Are there specific tenants that tend to prefer, a HMO with so many bedrooms?
Yeah.
Or is it, are there anything that we should be aware, basically? Because even myself, I can't imagine myself living with 12 other people in the same house, but I'm sure there are many who do. So it's just a case of working out which type of people would be okay with that scenario. Is there a heavy demand for those type of properties?
Fantastic question. So, first thing I'm going to share with you is, obviously you're one of our coaching guys, so you've worked with us in a capacity before. The call that we had recently, if you remember, one of the things I shared with you. So again, let me summarize the question and I'll come back. So guys, for those of you who are watching, Timmy's asked two questions. The first question was, what are the specific tenant types that potentially could want to live in a 11 plus or 12 plus bedroom property? And the second question that Timmy basically asked was around the fact that if it's going to take him a couple of days in order to get information from landlords, from the council for the landlord, the question is effectively, is it commonplace just generally for an 11, 12 bed or more property, HMO property, to have no planning permission? So is that a good summary of the questions, Timmy?
Yes, yeah.
Perfect. All right, so let's start here. The first thing is this. With regards to the tenant types, all right, if you, I want you to take out your pen and paper. We're going to just break this down and then we can go into it a little bit further. So the first thing is, there's four general kinds of tenants, okay? Four general kind of tenant types, okay? Now, I didn't make this up, okay? This is something I learned from Simon Zucci when I did the mastermind program. So guys, you can okay, cool. You can go out there and find that out for yourself. Okay, so there's generally four different types of tenant. Now, those four different types of tenant come into these categories. The first group you can write down, and again, there's no priority order. It just is what it is. One of the groups is called students. Okay, so we're all familiar with students going off to university, etc. Just remember, students come in different shapes and forms. So some people I know are very afraid of having students as tenants, but there's lots of different kinds of student tenants. You have, undergrad, you had postgrad, you have colleges. There's certain colleges, specialist colleges, where the students actually don't live at home. They live in dorms or rental accommodation. So you got colleges, you got undergrad, you got postgraduate, etc., etc. So just bear that in mind. And then you've got obviously a hybrid of students, which is effectively is staff. So you might have a PhD student who's actually a lecturer. So that's therefore their staff as well as students. So students is one camp of tenant. Okay. The next camp of tenant that you see, I'm getting comments saying can't hear and no. What can't you hear, guys? Okay, I assume you're all talking about Timmy. We've just turned up Timmy's volume, so hopefully that's helpful. So the second group you have outside of students in HMOs is professionals. Okay, professionals. So by professionals, that's my main clientele. So the HMOs I generally have professional working tenants. These are people who generally have a degree and they're working, a graduate job. And obviously we know the national average salary in the UK is roughly around between 23 and 26,000 a year. So if you're dealing with professional tenants, you're usually dealing with people who have a salary of 26 plus £1,000 a year, just as a general benchmark. So that's the first two groups: students and then professional working tenants. Okay, now the other two groups are two groups that usually are vilified, but they don't need to be vilified because they're just groups. They're just groups of people, types of people as well, and we're all human beings, so no one should be vilified. We should just be appreciated and recognized for what we do, when we do it, and how we do it. So the third group that you can write down is basically your blue collar workers. Okay, so these are the people potentially working in factories. These people might be working in warehouses, etc., etc. So these are people who are working full-time jobs, but they're not necessarily working graduate jobs. So their mean salary, their average salary per year might not be 20s or in the 30s. Their average salaries might be 19k, 16k, 18k. I don't know what the minimum wage is anymore. I stopped taking track of that a number of years ago, but based on the minimum wage, they could have something, equitable to that as an annual salary. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, cool. So the fourth group of people who we should all know who they are based on what I've just done, because I've left them to last, is the DSS tenant. Okay, the tenant who's effectively on benefit, so a benefit tenant. And a lot of the time, these people are people who are not working. They don't have a job. They don't have employment. And because they don't have a job or they don't have employment, these people are relying on the state, the government, in order to fund their property venture, their rent, etc., etc. So does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so they're generally the four groupings. Now, based on those four groupings, we now are going to try and answer your question. So your first question is, what type of tenant potentially wants to stay in a 12 room, 11 room or more kind of HMO property? And I guess the reality is, when I break them into those four groupings that I've just shared with you now, that should hopefully make it really easy for you to start seeing, oh, these kind of tenants would, these kind of tenants wouldn't. And even more importantly, as an investor, what I'd be saying to you is, the question isn't really about what type of tenant wants to stay in that kind of property. The question more so is, what kind of tenant do you want? What group of those four do you want if you're managing that property? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the reason I'm saying it like that is because obviously we're going to know certain tenant types are going to desire certain things and certain locations and
Yeah.
certain amenities. So, for example, if you're a student studying at a university, generally those people are generally younger tenants, so they want to be close, they don't want to be far. Okay, it's all about ease. So when I say that, what I mean is, if you're studying at the University of Canterbury, for example, you want to be in a property really close to, your school, your department, etc., etc., or the main campus. You want to be really close to that. Now, the funniest thing is, if there was no train station really near, that wouldn't really even bother you, to be honest, as a student. Why? Because the majority of your livelihood at student time is to do with that university. Now, obviously, many of us know right now with lockdown, etc., a lot of universities have sent, the students home, and those students ain't expecting to even come back until, I think, October or maybe even next January. So the reality is, that's another issue you got to consider in this current storm. The fact that right now, certain tenant types aren't looking. So again, going back to your question about demand, the student market right now, even if it was the best thing for that property, might not actually be able to be interested enough for you to get all of those rooms let. So right now you might say, okay, let me switch tenant type and come back. So the first one I'd say to you that fits that criteria, or the first theory I'd share with you, is you need to think about what kind of tenant you want to manage at that scope of 12 plus people. Now, some of the tenants that naturally gravitate to those larger HMOs, students are definitely going to be one of them. Why? Because students are used to living in dormitories with 30 plus, 40, 50 plus rooms, especially with a lot of the new build stuff.
Yeah.
40, 50 rooms is nothing for them. They're looking at 200 rooms, high rises, etc. Okay, so you having a HMO with 12 bodies, for some people, for some students, that's going to be cool. So the student market naturally will probably lend itself to that. The next thing is I would say the DSS market also lends itself to that, but depending on which location you're in. And I want to say this to you as well, Timmy, because I don't want you to kid yourself about this. The DSS market is a particular kind of market. You have to be a particular kind of landlord, or if it's a rent to rent, you have to be a particular kind of property manager to be able to effectively manage HMO tenants who are DSS tenants, especially at, you know, a capacity of 12 or more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I guess what I'm saying to you is be careful with that if you're gonna go that route. Yeah. Okay. So that's
Yeah.
DSS we've kind of touched on. That's students we've kind of touched on. Now with the professionals, this is what I'm gonna say to you. Professionals, because out of the four groups, they have the highest average income. What you're going to have to understand is for you to put them in that kind of environment with 12 or more people, you're going to have to be offering something that a whole bunch of other people in a whole bunch of other properties are not offering. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If I'm a working professional, I just finished my degree in statistics. I'm working as a statistician for whoever, you know, the OS, the Ordnance Survey Company. So now I got my good graduate job. They're paying me 27, 28, 29. Let's say they're paying me 32. I'm on a nice salary to start with, okay? So this person's just finished their degree. They're used to the student dorm living. So as a professional, they're happy to live in a HMO. But you're offering me a 12-bedroom HMO with nothing special, whereas the guy down the street is offering me a 6-bedroom HMO with nothing special. I'm going to take the 6-bedroom HMO all day long. Why? Because at the 6-bedroom HMO, I know there's less people to think about or to be concerned with in terms of my engagement, etc. Now, does that mean 12-bedroom HMOs does not work? No, the complete opposite. What it means is in a 12-bed or more, you just have to have something that maybe someone in a 6-bed can't have, i.e. like a communal space, a games room. Like there's little things like that you can think about, which someone in a 6-bed HMO can never have because he'll never have enough space for it. You know, but you could have
Yeah,
that in a 12
yeah.
bed or an 11 bed. So that's what I'd say to you. If you're going to go for the professional market, ask yourself, what amenities can I put in this 12 bed that are never going to be found in a 5-bed or 6-bed? Okay. And one of the big ones, which we got whole fads going on about for the last 2 or 3 years right now, is co-living, co-working spaces. So if you've got, you know, whatever, a dashboard room, a room where people can come in, whatever, you got laptops chained to the table, they might be laptops you've paid for. And it's cool. Like laptops are fairly cheap these days. You can get some good Chromebooks for about £200. If I'm going to give you my advice, if I had a 12-bed HMO I was taking on as a rent to rent, I might say, well, look, rather than me spec every room with a TV, I'm going to spend the money on specing every room with a TV to build another space instead, or to facilitate another space where I just basically put 11, 12 laptops in. And with those 11 or 12 laptops, what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to give these lot, you know, unlimited access to the Wi-Fi, obviously, which they have anywhere in their room, but it becomes a co-working space. So now what I'm doing is I'm incentivizing them. And if I want to, I can even think about, you know, different creative ways to run that, i.e., you know, you pay an extra fee. So your room might be $5.50 a month, but to get access to the co-working room, you pay an extra £5 a month on your rent. Now, am I interested in the £5? No, I'm not interested in the £5, but I just throw that on top so that they feel like, okay, look, we're actually paying for this. It's cheap, but it's actually an incentive to be here. I'm paying a little bit extra to get this room. Okay. And I would say that's something I'd think about. Okay. But these are small things, but they make massive differences because you might end up spending £200 per room on a TV. Okay, after 10 rooms, that's over £2,000. Whereas you might be able to buy 7, 8 laptops to service all 12 people in the property in one room, get them chained to the table, and just let the people have them. As look, rather than me buying you a TV, I bought a Chromebook. You guys use them. It's a working space, and let the people just work there. Get some park benches. Park benches are fairly cheap if they're done nicely. Put them in that room. It's a co-living space, a co-working space. So that's what I'd say about the tenant types. The last tenant type is the blue collar workers. And my advice to you on the blue collar workers is basically, you know, I'm not saying don't go down that route. Again, it depends on the location of the property. It depends on kind of what amenities you got in the property. But generally, if you're getting blue collar workers in a 12 plus HMO, you're looking potentially for all these people to be working in the same place. So I'll give an example. If anybody who's on the video, on the live, knows about the area of Doncaster. In Doncaster, well, not, it's not really Doncaster, but it's 5-10 minutes away from Doncaster. They got the massive ASOS warehouse. They've got massive warehouses around there, but one of the massive warehouses is the ASOS warehouse. And as a direct byproduct, you've got a lot of people who are not actually even British who work inside of that warehouse. So as a direct byproduct of so many people who are working in that warehouse, those people, because they're not natively British, they don't have council accommodation or all of the other amenities that the council offer. So they're looking for HMO rooms or smaller apartments. So as a direct byproduct in those areas, you get micro apartments. People are renting them. Why? Because they don't want to pay as much money for the bigger apartments, but they still want somewhere to live. So somewhere like that, having 12 rooms would work, but you're probably going to have 12 rooms all for factory workers in ASOS or factory workers in Amazon or whatever else it is. So again, one of the comments that has just come in, it says location plays an important part in choosing the type of tenants. Yes, it does. Okay, yes, it does. If it's not location, it's amenity. So that's what you got to think about. Okay, they're the two things that play a massive part in your tenant type: the location and the amenity. And again, going back to all of the things I've shared about the students want to be next to their university. So okay, that boils down to location. If it's a professionals want to be close to a station so they can commute really quickly. Again, that's a location variable. But at the same time, like I said, if you're having a 12 bed, location's not going to be the only thing on your mind. You're also going to have to think about, what am I offering to incentivize these 12 people to want to stay in a house with another 11 people versus just staying in a house with 5 people, if that makes sense. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So the next question...
That's really, really...
You're welcome, most welcome. So the next question you asked was around the planning and basically the council, and you are basically saying, obviously this landlord wants to move quickly with you, and basically he said that the last people that were managing the property didn't have any planning permission, so you wanted to know more about that. Yeah. All right, cool. The first thing I'm going to say is you want to focus on the specific borough. Okay, the specific borough. Now obviously, because I'm based in London and I do a lot of deals in London it's borough based. If you're outside of London, and again, I don't know where this deal you're speaking about is, but if you're outside of London, you want to focus on the specific city. So what do I mean by the specific city? If you're in Reading, for example, there's going to be a citywide approach to HMOs and the HMO regulation. So what I'm saying to you in that regard is, you want to find out whether it's a borough or a city that you need to pay attention to. And before Monday comes, before Tuesday comes, you want to start reading up on the information about HMOs in that particular location. Now, the first thing, which is easy for all of us, there's national guidance, okay? And obviously, October 2018, the HMO national guidance changed. And the great thing about when national guidance change, it has a change on everything, because it's national guidance. But besides national guidance for HMOs, there's also local guidance. So what I want to say to you is, you need to check the local guidance in that specific city to find out, based on the local guidance, is planning permission needed for that many rooms. Now, 9 times out of 10, I would probably say all of the time, planning permission is needed for anything more than 6 rooms. So 7, 8, 9, the minute you hit over 6 rooms, that's why people usually say 6 is the sweet spot for HMOs. But the minute you go over 6 rooms, generally, even in the more relaxed cities and the more relaxed boroughs, the moment you go over 6, usually you need planning permission for that HMO. However, the reason I'm going to bring in the however, because this is very, very true. However, okay, if the property has an appropriate use clause, that would circumvent the planning. And it doesn't circumvent the planning, i.e. I don't need planning. It circumvents the planning because the use class would have been issued by the planning department. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something to bear in mind massively as well. Okay. And one of the things you could... Go for it.
So I was going to say, but then it could be issued, but for a 6 bed, that's where I'm not too sure, because there's a difference between 6 bed and then 13. So,
what do you mean? Elaborate on that.
Basically, well, I might be wrong, but if there was planning permission for a 6 bed, then if the property's been changed to C4, doesn't mean that it can be used for more than 6 beds. if I'm
Yeah,
correct.
that's a good point.
It'll still need. I think the license would still need to be for the specific amount of rooms that you'd want.
Yeah, perfect. So this is the way it works, just for simplicity. So the planning permission, or the planning body, the planning agency, will give you permission to use the property under certain use classes. Okay, and then the moment they do that, it's your license that stipulates how many rooms can be used. Yeah. So if the planning's given you, if the planners have given you or given the property a classification to be used as a HMO under that guidance, then you should be fine. But what you need to do, the key for you right now, is to take the license that you've got, or that the landlord's gonna provide. When you take that license, basically you want to liaise with the planning department in the area and basically say to them, look, I have this license for the property. I've been told that there's apparently already planning in place. I just want to know if there's anything we need to do, and just ask the question. Okay, there's nothing wrong with being upfront. There's nothing wrong, with telling the truth. That's how you move forward in property. Okay, it's about being honest, integral, and building real relationships. Building relationships with that planning department. Building relationships with the respective people around, whether it's the licensing department, etc. Like, I've been having back and forth emails this week with a specific licensing department in London, because they've just issued us a HMO license. A brand new HMO license was recently issued, but the designations of rooms according to the licensing details that they've given us, I'm not happy with. So I've just emailed them back and said to them, look guys, I think it needs to be done a different way based on the last inspection we had. This is what we basically agreed. We need to make some modifications and some changes. And it's not a big thing. Like, you gotta realize you're dealing with human beings, and as long as you treat them with respect like human beings, all should be fine. Now again, does that mean it always works out like that? No. Like, you've been to Marks and Spencer's before and had the upset person who treats you bad, but you've equally been to Marks and Spencer's before and had the person who's treated you so good you wondered, am I really in Marks and Spencer's? So that's just the way things work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, thank you.
So, you're welcome.
A cheeky last edition is, how would I move forward?
A cheeky last edition, guys. Those of you's watching, is Timmy allowed a cheeky last edition? All right, go on. Throw out the last question. Throw out the last question. We're here to add value.
Yeah,
go for it.
Sorry. It's still tied with the second question. That if this process takes longer, how would I structure the deal with the landlord? So if it takes longer for me to work out the logistics around the HMO, but the landlord still wants some kind of like commitment from me, how would you suggest to structure the deal?
Elaborate. You need to elaborate a bit more. What do you mean? Like, I get the general principle of what you're saying, but like, elaborate. Yeah. Like, to be honest, like, if I wanted to answer your question with what you've just said alone, I'd be saying, like, ask the landlord, like, what do you need? Like, what do you need to show that I'm committed to this transaction, despite the fact we don't have the information right now? Do you get what I mean? Like, I'd ask that open question, because again, it's about building relationships, it's about transparency, etc. But elaborate. What's your concern? I think that's the real question I'm asking you. What is your actual concern? What are you worried about?
Yeah, my concern is if I agreed anything with the landlord now, and then the council tell me that I can only use 6 beds or maybe 7 beds, then it could make the whole deal unprofitable for me.
Of course.
And then I would have already kind of committed.
Okay, so your question to me is, what would I do? What would I put in place in order to protect myself in case, basically, things didn't work out the way I thought they were going to work out, yeah?
Yeah.
And you've got the answer already, right? The moment I said that, you probably thought, that's the answer. I hope. Yes or no?
Somewhat, yes.
Right,
yes.
say no.
I guess I'm just curious.
Okay, I was going to say, if the answer is no, say no. But look, I would have just put a break clause in. Put a break clause in the contract. I'll make it clear to the landlord that, look, if I'm unable to prove that we can basically, utilize all 12 rooms, then that's going to end up being a bit of a challenge for us. And if that's a challenge for us, the problem with that is obviously I can't move forward with that. So as a direct byproduct, let's do this. And the let's do this should basically just should just boil down to, okay, let's end the contract, or let's do it a different way, or whatever else. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'd just have a break clause.
Yeah.
Have a simple break clause which basically stipulates that if it doesn't work for them or it doesn't work for you, then unfortunately you move on. And there's nothing wrong with that. Most reasonable landlords who understand you need to make money from the transaction will understand why you need that. And that should just be reasonable. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's what I'd say to you in that regard.
Thank you so much, Sam. We really appreciate your help. Thank you.
Most welcome. Hope you got massive value. All right, so excellent. Thank you. All right, so that was Timmy. Timmy, thank you for calling in. Appreciate you on the call. And guys, just going back to Timmy's question, and just to kind of give you guys some more insight, we've got, I'm going to put this up on the screen so you guys can see this as well. Okay, this is effectively a use class map. Okay, so if you just go on Google, and just search in Google property use class orders, okay, that will help you to get an understanding of what are the actual different kind of use classes that are available out there, in order for you to actually know what the planning department need to give to you in terms of, okay, you know, do we need C3, do we need C4, etc. So that's one thing I'm going to encourage all of you guys to do. Go out there and actually start finding out what use classes are needed, what use classes are necessary. Because what a lot of people do is they don't know what use classes they actually need, but they're out there still trying to, oh yeah, I'm going to do this deal, or I'm going to do that. But guys, if you don't know what you're doing, you can't do this and you can't do that. So I want to encourage you, you know, use things like this, use things like the use class map, which are freely available. This one's provided, it says, by Knight Frank, which is obviously one of the bigger commercial property organizations out there. Okay, so use that kind of stuff and use that to help you move forward. All right, guys, so I'm going to jump into the comments real quick. And then after jumping into the comments, I'll check if we've got any other callers, and then I'll share a few more things with you guys before we jump off. So let's just go through the comments real quick. For those of you who are getting value, just write the word value in the chat. Okay, Timmy's questions, I was going to say Timmy's question, but Timmy's questions were quite jam-packed, and I really appreciate him calling in. As I mentioned, Timmy's one of the guys that is on our coaching program, so it's great to have him call in and ask some key questions, and I'm really happy to hear him securing such a big HMO, especially at such an early stage in his property journey. So great. Okay, great. I've got comments from Lawrence here where he's basically answering the question that I asked about, do you think the storm is over? And they've basically said, no, not at all. It's the calm before the storm. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I think that's quite pertinent and interesting as well. Yogesh said, good evening. Evening, Yogesh. Great to have you on. If no one else wants to call in, Yogesh, just call in. Just call in. Like, never feel like, you know, you have to give the opportunity. Anyone can call in. The phone number's there. The access code is there. If you have a question, call in, get your question answered. It's all about taking advantage of the opportunity. That's what I'd say. Yogesh says he took a mortgage holiday and regrets it now. Should have waited for advice from others like yourself. Thank you very much, Yogesh. I appreciate that. And it's also been great, Yogesh, having you each week. I think nearly every one of these strategies in the storms, Yogesh has been on. And, you know, for several of these, Yogesh has been asking questions, which I think is fantastic. So, Yogesh, well done to you. Hat off to you, and keep doing that. That's how you move forward in your property journey. You know, Simon Zucci used to say this to me, and he says it all the time still. He says the more people you know in property, the better you will be in property, the more success you'll get in property. The more people you know in property, the more success you'll get in property. So guys, this is what it's about. It's about, you know, I spoke about Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, before. He talks about the masterminding principle. The key is about minds coming together, thinking together. Those of you who have attended my networking event, you know, we get over 100 people every single month attending a networking event, or the online networking event. We've been running online networking events since the lockdown. Same thing, over 100 people month in, month out. Guys, the reason we come to those environments is so we can get clued up and get insight. So again, Keep doing what you're doing, and keep connecting with people. All right, so get a property says the mortgage holiday is basically a very expensive loan. Interesting statement. Excellent. We got a few comments from Timmy. Yes, I can hear you. Perfect. Okay, so we've got, can you turn up the volume on Timmy, please? We did turn it up in the end. I hope that was fine for all of yous. Anne says she couldn't hear him. The Yoga said a bit quiet, can't hear clearly. Apologies, guys. We did turn it up after. Hopefully it was fine afterwards. E Cosmios says hi all. Hi E Cosmios, great to have you on. Osa says lost sound. Apologies, Osa. Hopefully that's fixed for you right now. And then we got Get Our Property says location plays an important part in choosing the type of tenants. Totally right, as I mentioned earlier. Ecosmia says less people equals less variables, and that's very, very true. Best practice is to avoid mixing groups, so ideally all students or professionals, etc. Yeah, 100% totally agree with Get a Property. Like, we never ever encourage anybody to mix tenants. Don't mix tenant types, okay? I'll say it like that. Do not mix tenant types. Mixing tenant types is a formula for chaos, okay? And you heard it here. So shout out to Get a Property. Thank you for that. We got E Cosmeo saying yes, that's true, and we've also say honesty is always the best policy, and we totally agree with that and preach that every single week on the show. So guys, yeah, look, going back to a few things, the Martin Lawrence documentation, we sent the link in earlier. Guys, I just want to encourage you. It is so pertinent right now, okay, where so many people are running around unsure about what to do. Some people are going to go for the mortgage holidays, but look at what Yogesh said. Yogesh said he actually took a mortgage holiday and now he regrets it. Okay, he actually now regrets it. And that's the funniest thing. That is a lot of the time what can happen when you don't surround yourself with the right people who can actually help you in terms of moving forward. Now, I'm seeing value. Value is always Samuel. Thank you guys for writing the value in the comments. Totally appreciate it. And with regards to all of that, what I want to share with you guys is, if you have not got the free sourcing blueprint that we offer to the community, this is an absolutely free ebook, helps you understand how to source properties for yourself and also source properties for other investors that you can later sell those properties to. Go and get the free ebook. It's absolutely free. It's a very short read. I created it as a short read because I wanted to help people, not with excessive hyperbole of you could do and you could do, but I wanted to make it simple so people could just basically read this and know, okay, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to do it, and I can see it being done. And guys, that is what this is all about. So go and get this free resource, okay? The resource is there for you. This is the sourcing blueprint. It's a free ebook, and it will help you move forward in your property journey by helping you start to understand how basic and how simple it is in order for you to source properties. I'm seeing value appreciation. Value as always. Thank you guys for the comments. I really do appreciate it. Now, without further ado, before I go, I just want to encourage you guys to go and watch this video, which is What Comes First, Deals or Investors. It's one of our most watched videos, and it's a video that will help you move forward in your property journey. And last but not least, why not go and watch one of these videos, which is the last week's or previous week's Q&A strategy in a storm. Without further ado, Samuel I Can Win. I'm signing out. I know you got value. I got value being here. Have a great day.